Ladies and gentlemen, you can understand that it is extremely difficult to coordinate a hybrid meeting. It is the first time that we are organizing a hybrid meeting. That is why we had to wait a little bit. And now I think that every technical thing has been solved, and we are together to start the fourth of a series of conferences that we have had related to biomedical sciences and methods in archaeology. This is an effort of quite a long time, which started as an initiative of Professor Trobukis, as you will see him and listen to him in a few minutes. And then it has been developed to a very interesting point of interest for the group of people that are dealing with this type of a cooperative, inter and multidisciplinary or science. Now, I would like, first of all, to congratulate and thank you, all of you that are present with us. And then I will start to tell you who was extremely importantly contributed to the whole issue. I would like to thank Professor Trobukis for being with us today and being the organizer together with Şebnem Özkal, Professor Şebnem Özkal. These are the two universities, İYYU University and İYYU University, that took the responsibility of organizing the whole issue. Now I want to give a very big thank to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of the Republic of Turkey, because it supported the whole issue from the very, very beginning. And it was wonderful to cooperate. I had the opportunity to cooperate with wonderful people like Coşkun Yılmaz, who is the director of Istanbul Ministry of Culture, responsible. And then with Dr. Rahmi Hasan, who is going to be with you in a few moments, and he is the director of Istanbul Archaeological Museums. It is our honor to tell you the truth that we're here in this very special part of Istanbul museums, archaeological museums, and I thank them really from the bottom of our heart. After this great contribution, I want to really thank the Istanbul Convention and Visitors Bureau. Actually, they are the first that we captured the idea to be together and organize something here in Istanbul. And I really want to thank the director of the Chamber of Commerce of Istanbul, who is the responsible of this coordination and cooperation, Çekip Avgadic. And I would like also to thank Mr. Bahadır Yaşık, who really cooperated for the realization of the whole process. Now, Fatih Municipality is contributing to a very special part of this conference. This conference has traditionally a tour, which is not a touristic tour. It is a scientific tour that is in an archaeological site, which brings together scientists within this kind of a site. So this year, Fatih Municipality helped us to organize a magnificent tour, and all the colleagues are invited to this tour. Therefore, I would like to thank the Mayor Ergün Turan for this contribution. And finally, I would like to thank İstanbul İYYU University that contributed both academically and practically, I should say, and technically for the realization of this project. I'm very happy to be with you here in this magnificent environment. This meeting will be interesting for you too. Now I'd like to ask Professor Troboukis to address and say a few words related to the conference and related to the program, if you wish, please.
Dear participants, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be in this impressive place with all of you together this moment. As a co-participant of the scientific committee, and I don't say as a founder, as one of the main founders of this series of Congress in Biomedical Sciences and Methods in Archaeology, I would like to welcome in the fourth Congress. The conference aims to highlight the research possibility offered by the application of biomedical techniques to the study of human skeletal remains retrieving from archaeological contexts. Such innovative techniques and expected to contribute to a more comprehensive reconstruction of health and disease patterns in past populations. So, researchers in the fields of medicine, bioarchaeology, paleopathology, physical anthropology, archaeology, and related scientific fields welcome to this Congress, which organizes in Istanbul this time. Thank you and welcome. And I want to say that the Congress has and the next Congress in another European country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. And now I would like to call here to give the floor to the director of Istanbul Archaeological Museums, Dr. Rahmi Hasan, to say hello to the participants.
Sayın Bakanım, Sayın Başkanım ve değerli katılımcılar, hepinize hoş geldiniz diyorum. Hocam siz ne kadar kısa süre yapıyorsunuz çeviri için bilemiyorum ama peki. Hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. İstanbul Arkeoloji Müzelerinin bu gözde mekanında gerçekten çok unik bir mekan Türkiye Cumhuriyeti içinde tek alan, bu böyle bir kütüphane. Çok özel tutuyoruz. Bu kongre için özel bir çabayla açtık. Olabildiğince korumaya çalışıyoruz. Hani hassasiyetimizin, kıskançlığımızın belki sebebi bu paylaşma konusunda. Ama adı da üstünde arkeolojiyle ilgili böyle bir kongrenin Türkiye'de arkeolojinin, müzeciliğin, güzel sanatların temelinin atıldığı ve kökeni 1726'lara giden bir müzede ki 1869'da da Müze-i Hümayun olarak adı geçiyor ve kuruluşu, resmi kuruluşu bu kabul ediliyor. Böyle bir yerde bu kongrenin de İstanbul'da veya Türkiye'de buradan başka bir yerde yapılmasını da ben açıkçası içime sindiremezdim. Bize teklif geldiğinde olabildiğince destek vermeye çalıştık. Tabii arkeolojide biyomedikal yöntemler çok özel bir alan, özel bir konu. Benim çok fazla üzerine konuşabileceğim elbette bir şey değil aslında arkeolog olsak da. Çünkü arkeoloji artık multidisipliner bir çalışma alanı haline geldi. Sadece arkeologların, sanat tarihçilerin veya işte restoratörlerin değil de her türlü işte kimya, biyoloji, tıp, coğrafya aklınıza gelebilecek her alanda ihtiyaç duyulan tabii arkeolojik alanlarda başka disiplinlerle ortak çalışmalar yürütüyoruz. Biz de İstanbul Arkeoloji Müzelerinin ben hep söylüyorum genlerinde olan bir şey. Burası sadece müzecilik yapmıyor. Arkeolojik kazıları da yürütüyor Osman Hamdi Bey'den bu yana. Mesela İstanbul'un metrosu, Yenikapı Marmaray kazıları ki cumartesi günü sizlere sunumlarımız olacak bu konuda. Bu çalışmalarda da bu tür yöntemlerin olabildiğince kullanılmasına çaba gösterildi ve olumlu güzel çalışmalar yürütüldü. Size çok fazla biliyorum salgından dolayı muhtemelen birbirinize de herkes de hasret çalışma arkadaşları olarak alanında uzman kişiler o. Çok fazla uzatmadan katıldığınız için ve kongreyi de burada düzenlendiği için hem biz de Fatih Belediyesi'ne de İstanbul Ticaret Odası'na da Yeni Yüzyıl Üniversitesi'ne de teşekkür ediyoruz. İnşallah başka yine arkeoloji konusunda tabii özel projelerde birlikte olmak dileğiyle hepinize saygılarımı sunuyorum. Teşekkürler.
Now I'm going to translate the whole thing as much as I could. So after saluting you, our director said that it is a really important and special place, this venue, and we really do not give this area or this venue for any kind of congresses, conferences, or whatever, but we believe that this conference, this congress is very important, and that is why we tried hard, and I can assure you, to be able to do this congress in this special and specific place, because we believe that archaeology, culture, and all kinds of these social sciences were coming together in this area, in this place. Therefore, when they proposed this conference to this area, we really wanted to do it, and we tried our best to do it. I am an archaeologist, and I'm not in a position to talk about biomedical sciences in archaeology, but I have to tell you that the area of archaeology today is a multidisciplinary field. Everybody works together. We dig, they work for us scientifically. Therefore, this is the way that this field goes beyond working together and cooperating with different fields. This is not a museum, as he said. This is an area where people come together. And please let me tell that his way of introducing is that this is an institute. Yes, to us, this is an institute too. This is mine. I go on with his translation. He says that we're contributing and we're working like archaeologists anyway. We are having sites that we're dealing with. And today, in this conference, you're going to listen about our last contribution and work that we have done in Aksaray, Yenikapı, in Yenikapı side, and you are going to have on Saturday a detailed explanation of this. Therefore, we are not a museum. We want an alive and vivid place related to archaeology and to related fields. I thank for your contributions and for being here as participants. And I'm very happy that this conference has been realized here. And I thank everybody that I mentioned before. I don't want to repeat it, but the museum, the director of the museum, thanks everybody that has contributed for the realization of this project. And we thank you, director. Now, I would like to ask the Vice Rector of Istanbul Yeni Yüzyıl University to salute our conference.
Thank you very much, Professor Kalpoğlu. Dear ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to welcome you to the 4th International Conference on Science, Technology and Innovation. In this conference, I recognize the names of speakers of the participants from governments, the institutions, and the universities all together. It is very nice results. We have all worked tirelessly on the future agenda of innovative development. Of course, we all know the importance of science, technology, and innovation in our day-to-day lives and the way in which they are transforming the world. Regarding the scientific program, will be presented and discussed the various topics by research and scholars in the multidiscipline fields like medicine, biomedical, or archaeology, anthropology altogether. Of course, I would like to keep a little bit shorter my speak, and I wish you all a very successful 4th International Biomedical Sciences and Methods in Archaeology Conference. And we do, of course, hope that you enjoy your stay and also find the time to enjoy some of the beauty that Istanbul offers. Thank you very much, and have a nice conference and days, I wish you. Thank you very much.
Of Istanbul İYYU University. Although we had some technical problems, we thank him for his best wishes for a successful meeting. And now, should I go on? Yes? Okay. Now, it is not easy to organize a meeting in a museum like that. And it is almost impossible to imagine a conference in the library of a museum. But this, somebody did it possible. And this is the Minister of Culture. It's the Ministry, let me say, of Culture and Tourism of the Republic of Turkey. But I would like now to introduce you the real person that contributed for this. I would like to invite here the Honorable Deputy Minister of Culture and Tourism, Mrs. Özgül Özkan Yavuz, and I would like to thank her for her invaluable contribution for the realization of this meeting. Thank you.
Dear participants, I would like to welcome you all in our fantastic Istanbul Archaeology Museum. Today, archaeology is increasingly collaborating with other sciences like chemistry, biology, geography, and so on. This allows us to test our theories and acquire a better understanding of the historical facts. I learned that in this conference, distinguished scientists and researchers from several fields will be discussing new approaches and trends in bioarchaeology, as well as strategies to collaborate internationally and share case studies. We, as the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, are delighted to welcome the face-to-face participants to our museum and to our fantastic city of Istanbul. Our archaeological museums in Istanbul was founded in 1869. We are really proud of our museum, and it is actually our country's first museum. And over 1 million artifacts from our Ottoman Empire time are housed in our museum. So where you will be having your conference this time. Of course, our ministry has been hosting annual international symposiums on excavations, surveys, and archaeometry in partnership with our universities. Numerous experts from around the world attend these symposiums to discuss the findings of their excavations, restoration and conservation projects, archaeological surveys, and anthropological and archaeometric studies with the scientific community. Surely, all the archaeological surveys and excavations require not only governmental permission, but also every kind of support from government side. And as the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, we are doing our best to support the archaeological works in our country. And also we are a big fan and supporter of international collaboration in this area. All around Turkey, there are 680 archaeological surveys and excavations are going on. Most of them by Turkish universities, and some of them are in collaboration with different universities from around the world. And some of the excavations or surveys are also being carried by our own museums, thanks to our museums and thanks to our art historians and archaeologists working in our museums. Of course, another important area is smuggling of cultural property. It's another important task of our ministry. We are fighting against the smuggling of cultural property, so we have very good international network and relations with other countries to cope with this problem of which is usually worldwide organization. Next year we are going to have an exciting development, an exciting event, let's say, will be taking place in Şanlıurfa in Turkey, World Neolithic Congress. It will be held next year in 2023, where we will share the most up-to-date information about our Göbekli Tepe and surrounding excavations with the rest of the world. You know, the slogan of Göbekli Tepe is where everything has started, or the 0 point of history. So I would love to invite you all for next year's World Neolithic Congress, which will be taking place in Şanlıurfa, southeast part of Turkey. I really would like to thank everyone who contributed to this organization, to this international conference. The representatives from the Department of the History of Medicine, University of Ioannina, the Foreign Sciences Laboratory, Istanbul Yeni Yüzyıl University, and our Istanbul Archaeological Museums. And also a special thank goes to our Fatih municipality. I would like to welcome you all again and wish you a very successful conference, and thank you for the participation. I hope you will enjoy the conference and you will enjoy your time in Istanbul. Thank you.
We thank you so much, dear Minister. Thank you for the information, and thank you for the invitation too. Thank you very much. And I would like you, if you're still here for one moment, to open the working of this conference. You can just declare the opening of the conference yourself, if it's possible.
Okay, let's start with the conference. I wish you all success. Enjoy your time in our fantastic museum. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. And now that this conference has been declared, I wish myself success for the whole event as it is. Now, we do not give a break, but we go on, starting to the second part of today's opening ceremony, which is going to be a panel of several scientists that are coming all over the world and Turkey, where they are going to discuss biomedical archaeology, starting from the international relations part, going to very specific microbiology, or to the very important problem that we have realized the past 2 years, the awful situation with which made us 2 years out of our lives. I hope that you will enjoy this part of the conference. The first speech is going to be given by a professor. This is how I knew him years ago. Professor Retikem is going to talk about this international approach to biomedical sciences. Yes, he has the right to, because now he is a minister of foreign affairs in his country, which is Cambodia. We have met him in Europe. Now he is in Cambodia and he's serving for his country, being within the ministries and within the international relations. Now, I would like to ask Professor Retikem to talk about biomedical archaeology and international relations. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Ersi Gagolu. I'm very happy to meet you. I see many friends also on the list. Just a correction, I'm not the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but Minister at the Prime Minister Office, working at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also the Vice Minister of Industry, Science, Technology, and Innovation. Before I start my talk, I'd like to recall the history of this conference. It all started in 2008 when my good friend from Greece, Professor Konstantinos Tompukis, contacted me. By that time, I was the chairman of radiology and nuclear medicine in Canada. And I just published at time 2008 a book with my good friend who sadly has left us, Professor Don Brothwell, a book on paleoradiology. So with Kostas and myself, we got an idea to organize the first conference on biomedical science and archaeology in Crete, in Heraklion. I would have never thought that even so far, it's been almost 15 years. And the second one was in Izmir, where I met Professor Ersi. The third one was in France, I think Bordeaux, if I'm not mistaken, but I missed that part. And today, that I feel so sorry because I was just 1 inch to come to Istanbul, but with what's going on in the world today, my presence is required in the capital. So the key words that I had learning from the opening ceremony is the term multidisciplinary. Archaeology is a social science, but also is now become more and more scientific from the hard science with contribution from many disciplines, biomedical science, and in my field, radiology, and other technique that has come on the market, available on the market. So working together is just fantastic. And also, as I listen carefully at the opening by my colleague, the Honorable Minister Özgür Özkan Yavuz, she mentioned also about international cooperation. So, like any international conference, experts from many countries gather today in Istanbul to discuss biological science and methods in archaeology. This is par excellence a true practice of what we call science diplomacy. Furthermore, this archaeological conference is a transnational cultural and scientific exchange between scientists from many countries. In some, from the perspective of international cooperation, this conference falls into a combined subtype of diplomacy that we can call science and cultural diplomacy. So science diplomacy, I quote, seeks to build scientific collaboration that enhances relationships between nations, unquote. It can also inform foreign policy objectives by supplying scientific advice and facilitating international cooperation and also investment like tourism. In practical terms, scholars separate artificially science diplomacy in three categories. I will describe the three categories of science diplomacy using a territorial conflict between Cambodia and Thailand centered on a 11th century Preah temple in Cambodia. So first, science in diplomacy, science in diplomacy, where science serves as a tool to make diplomacy more effective. Collaborative research may eventually promote understanding between two cultures. For example, that low level of conflict still exists between Cambodia and Thailand with respect to that small plot of land nearby the Khmer temple of Preah. But collaborative research between Khmer and Thai archaeologists and biologists may contribute to induce trust and confidence for both countries, enabling a more effective diplomatic dialogue. At least it is our hope. Number two is diplomacy for science. Diplomacy for science, in that case, diplomacy serves as a tool for science development. For example, Cambodia has successfully registered the Preah as a Khmer temple as a World Heritage Site at UNESCO. As a consequence, an international coordinating committee presided by China and India was created to manage the conservation of the temple. Scientists, archaeologists from various countries and various disciplines in a multidisciplinary approach will collaborate to conduct research and help the conservation of the site. And part three is science in diplomacy. Science in diplomacy here, where scientific methods are used to gather evidence to support foreign policy or international law. In 1962, the International Court of Justice ruled in favor of Cambodia's claim to the temple. And again, in 2013, the same court ruled unanimously in Cambodia claim to the ground surrounding the temples. This ruling was supported by a thorough study of many maps and historical evidence that were collected throughout a scientific approach. So in summary, if you look at the three aspects here of science diplomacy, first is science, diplomacy for science, and number two, science for diplomacy, and number three, science in diplomacy. Without referring to the concept of science diplomacy, actually, if you think of this fourth international conference on biomedical science and method in archaeology, it is actually a clear example of active international cooperation via science and cultural diplomacy. So this is my part, just a concept that may be new to archaeologists and scientists, but all of you, through international collaboration, we have been practicing science diplomacy for forever, actually. And when there was some tension between some country, still scientists can work together. So today, it is my honor, my pleasure to be allowed to give this short speech to share with you. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Professor Elsie one more time, Professor Trompukis, and I've seen also Professor Dutu and other friends. When we look at this, we think of the friendship that have been built across these conferences, but particularly 3 out of 4 conferences has been organized in Greece and Turkey that are two cultures that are geographically, physically close, but yet a lot of very interesting and wealthy difference that represent both cultural heritage for the whole world. It is also my hope as a Cambodian that in the future, maybe I would invite you to consider moving the 5th conference to Cambodia, and we would look at many aspects coming from Turkey, from Greece, and from Angkor, the great site of Cambodia, archaeological site Cambodia, and many others. With Dr. Trompokis, we looked a lot at paleoradiology together because we were interested in the history of medicine. And I like to put emphasis on that part also, that archaeology, archaeological finding and study inform history. And this is about your conference that I consider also as a part, as a member, although I'm so far away from you today, that also we are looking at history medicine. And in July, next month, late July, I am co-organizing a conference on the history of public health in the medieval time at Angkor, along with the School Oriental and African Studies, and I will share that information with you. So with this, I'd like to thank you for the invitation. It's been a great pleasure to share with you one dimension that has been maybe overlooked, which is the beauty of international cooperation that build friendship, promote people-to-people connectivity, interaction, and friendship relation between people among with countries is actually the foundation of building peace in the future. And this is timely, and I feel sorry of what happened now in Europe with the war that involves so many countries now, and that I wish and I hope that scientists will continue to work together across the boundaries, sharing the beauty of culture from archaeological site and from the history of medicine, and contribute to the building of world peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much. Even myself, I was not able to think of this kind of a collaboration and this way of understanding biomedical sciences and archaeology. So thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation too. I don't know how many of us will be able to go to Cambodia. Now, thanks again. And let's hope that we will meet each other in the next conference. Thank you. Now, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to introduce you our second presenter. He was not able to come and talk to us this morning. I wanted very much to introduce him to you because he is one of the first that started the archaeometry and thinking about archaeometry and measuring scientifically. And he's Professor Hadi Özbal from Bosphorus University. He started this when I was very much like him to be able to talk about the starting and the development of archaeometry in our country. But unfortunately, he was not able to do it this time. I hope he's going to be together with us in the next meeting that we will have, I don't know where. I think this is going to be decided in this meeting. The next meeting will be decided in this meeting. Now, I would like Professor Güdücüoğlu to come and start talking about paleomicrobiology. Everything in this conference is paleo, but microbiology is the first time that is being discussed, and we're very proud that we have him. Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you for organization committee, and this is my first congress about archaeology. Hello again. I am Professor Dr. Hüseyin Güdücüoğlu. I'm working about microbiology. Actually, I interested with archaeology in Divan, but now I'm working in the Trakya University. Actually, I'm a doctor, medical doctor, but I'm interested with archaeology studies. Because of time, I choose my friends with archaeology friends, and it's time I started paleomicrobiology, and I will talk you about some archaeological studies and in the world. Why paleomicrobiology? Because I lived on a very deep-rooted civilization for 25 years. The name of this civilization is Urartu. Actually, I will say again, I'm a doctor and microbiologist, but because of my close interest in archaeology and my close relationship with the anthropologist and archaeologist at before my university, its name İYYU University. I said that what can I do with them? Then I came across paleomicrobiology, and I started search on this subject. This is Urartu region. You know, I know you know these places. And if you when PubMed is scanned, these names and so many words you can write on the PubMed, and you will see here, and you will see very much publication. Most of them were made on dental calculus and teeth, and continue. But there is no study from Turkey about paleomicrobiology. You are showing this slide. Despite the vast majority of studies on ancient oral microbiota have been performed on dental calculus, in 2019, Janssen and College analyzed a chewed peach from Denmark, date to presence of permafrost. You are seeing here, permafrost constantly low thermal energy and water availability support metabolic activity such as enzymatic degradation. Genomes with GC content, such as those from actinobacteria, are more stable and more difficult to fragment than their counterparts. Hoponoids, it is a very new word for me and my colleagues. They increase membrane stability and protect bacteria from environment stresses such as change in acidity and temperature and amber. And some studies you are seeing here, and PCR and other studies seen here, and so many studies started before. If you take to some samples from the materials, you can choose dental pulp for blood-borne pathogens, dental calculus mode microbiome, skeletal lesions, especially Mycobacterium tuberculosis, Mycobacterium lepra, Brucella melitensis, and Treponema pallidum, you can choose. Coprolite, good microbiome, and calcified pleura, Mycobacterium tuberculosis, ice coarse environment bacteria, you can choose. And mummy remains human microbiome, you can wear, and preserved internal organs, Bacillus anthracis, Vibrio cholera. Search and prevention of contamination of ancient specimens by microbes and microbial products in the common example of buried specimens. Red bars, if you see in the slide, indicate a pathogen present in the specimen at the time of death. Blue and green circles indicate environment microbes naturally contaminating the specimen during taphonomic processes. Blue star and yellow triangles indicate microbial contamination from discoveries of the specimen and fomites. You are seeing one catalog of available bacterial paleogenomes. The phylogenetic relationship between the species from which the paleogenomes were reconstructed as inferred using the NCBI taxonomy. This slide, I especially wanted to show the plaque here. It is the microorganism with the largest genome. The genomes of the three major epidemic we know of are shown here. I take to here, and because as you will see here, very small, I write here. The examples include teeth, bones, and mummies, but the reproduction of Vibrio cholera from the calcified pleura is interesting. And why interesting? Because we are looking to Vibrio cholera in the good microbiota. Because of time, this is very interesting because some researchers take from calcified pleura. And what will we do in the paleomicrobiology? First, microscopic observation. First, macroscopic observation on the teeth. And if you look to microscopic analyzing its time, microscopic observation evidencing the omnipresence of well-preserved calcified microorganism in ancient human dental calculus by using optical microscopy after gram staining, scanning electron microscopy, transmission electron, fluorescent dye to reveal the double-straight DNA. Scanning electron microscopy revealed the progressive build-up of ancient dental calculus. If we look to solution with paleomicrobiology in the world, Bartonella species, the oldest evidence of Bartonella quintana and the oldest evidence of Bartonella species was obtained in an individual buried 4,000 years ago. And you are looking to here and Rickettsia provozaki and some algorithm giving here. This is the Ötzi. Everybody knows this Ötzi. And investigated this Helicobacter pylori origin. And each time they find it can be African population or European population, they state. The dental pulp is a sterile, highly vascularized tissue and has been commonly used as a biological material to detect the genome of infectious agents that reach the dental tissue. Indeed, the pulp is also used to reveal past and ancient infection in the field of paleomicrobiology. You are seeing here some researcher doing and blood and pulp analyzing, and they find a very similar result, blood and dental pulp. Maybe we can work in the next some criminal studies this pulp material. This is the trace of ancient DNA of Vibrio cholera have been detected to provide genetic information associated with the 50 cholera pandemic. Sediment samples were analyzed from the sacral foramen of 4 individuals from a mass grave near a private institution that isolated and treated citizens infected with cholera in the late 19th century in Cordoba, Argentina. Question: why can't we find bones with bone change of a leprosy? I'm leprosy doctor, and I worked to lepra. The answer is complex, the real problem. It is the scarcity of bone fossil remains showing change in the rhinomaxillary region and tubular bones of the hand and foot. It may be associated with a long incubation period and slow development of disease. Leprosy involves the skeleton in the final stage of its clinical course. Cause of time, we didn't find on the bone leprosy lesion. This is the leprosy lesion being in the palate and finger and pencil finger. If you find the pencil finger, it's time you can bring me and I can analyze leprosy. This is malaria. Alphonse Laurent, French army surgeon, first observed Plasmodium gammatocytes in the blood of patients with the optical microscopy in 1978 in 1878 in Bonn, Algeria. And some paleoimmunological diagnosis. The first, this slide is the first paleomicrobiological study. Falciparum detected histidine-rich protein 2 antigen in 7 Egyptian studies on the mummies of King Tutankhamun's own family, determined that the probable cause of death of Tutankhamun and his relatives İYYU and İYYU was Plasmodium falciparum malaria. The development of direct detection of ancient malaria has for centuries have been an excellent way to investigate the origin, evolution, and frequency of malaria in Europe. This is Yersinia. First epidemic first epidemic known as plague is Justinian, devastated the world. The second epidemic, so-called Black Death, are killed an estimated 1/3 of Europe's population. And the third epidemic probably began in the Chinese province in Yunnan in 1772 and spread worldwide on the eve of the 20th century, following human movement by steamship and rail. And this is the phylogenetic analyzing. And if you take the one study, and you can find and the past and now, today, and phylogenetic analyzing of bacteria. This is Vienna, very popular street, and Tuberculosis analyzed according to sporotyping method, and you can find it tuberculosis studies. Some paleo studies started Gökük excavation, and my friend started in this place, and he will look to coprolite for parasite. And Gökük you are seeing here. In the next, what we will do about the paleomicrobiology, you must find some disease where is the popular. Each time you can work the paleomicrobiology. For example, brucellosis is a zoonotic infection transmitted to humans from infected animals and animal food products. The disease is most prevalent in the central and southeastern parts of the country. Tularemia had been historically known to cause sporadic outbreaks, particularly in the northwestern parts of the country. However, tularemia has now become an emerging zoonotic disease, disseminating over a wider geographical area in Turkey. Tuberculosis, currently the WHO estimated the 12 million people are living with tuberculosis worldwide. Overall, during the last 15 years, there has been a steady decline in the prevalence of the tuberculosis cases in Turkey, all regions throughout you can work. Lyme disease, especially in central Anatolia, you can find. Rickettsiosis, a few small cluster of patients with disease related to Rickettsia connori infected were observed in different parts of Turkey in the last decade. Also, there were for the case reports of rickettsias throughout the country. And malaria has been known since early in Turkish history. Most of patients were from Çukurova province, which is a predominantly irrigated farming region of southeastern Turkey. If you know these diseases, each time you can work and on the Turkey, some places. My studies in the Turkey first, I will talk tomorrow. And I find very interesting results. I will talk tomorrow. And this is my groups, and Hakan Yılmaz, anthropolog. He is living in the Van, and Serap Keskin Tunç. She is a dentist, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you. And finally, we are going to listen to Professor Olivier Dutour. Now, the third meeting of this effort was realized in Bordeaux in France. And he is the organizer. He was the organizer. Professor Olivier Dutour is now in the Science and Education Institute in Paris. And he's going to talk about an extremely interesting topic, which again brings past to today to the future. So, Professor Olivier Dutour.
Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for not being able to be with you in a more direct way. I'd like to thank the organizers of this new BMSA Congress, and especially Professor Ersi Kalfoglu and Professor Konstantinos Trumpokis for the kind invitation to present this paper. I am presenting the issue of ancient pandemics and its usefulness in the understanding of current situation. So, why look back at the past pandemics? That's the question. And as Victor Hugo said, the future is a door, and the past is a key. And the past of pandemics, which is the usual object for study of archaeology and history, is becoming a hot topic in microbiology epidemiology over the last 20 years in order to understand better the current pandemics phenomena with the light of the past. So what we know is that during the 20th century, there was a decline in infectious risks. That's the first point. The second one is that, in contrast, during the last 40 years, we have experienced a succession of pandemics. And this phenomenon is speeding up. So presently, we have a big pandemic every 2 years. So how to explain this? We will see that it is the result of a combination of two interrelated factors. One point in common is that all these recent pandemics are from animal origins. And Ebola, AIDS, flu, SARS, MERS, COVID, it's all at the beginning zoonosis that became anthropozoonosis as the pandemics. So what we can note as well is that humans are the most infected biological species, with more than 1,400 pathogens. Bacteria are the most abundant, but viruses are more frequent to be responsible for pandemics. And it can be explained because we have, in addition to our own pathogens, we have caught also animal pathogens during our evolutionary history. So we have ancient human pathogens contemporary for the emergence of Homo genus, and recent ones contemporary of the emergence of sapiens species. But we do have as well anthropozoonosis, which are characterized by their human-to-human transmission or no human-to-human transmission, depending on the degree of adaptation. And we caught this animal pathogen during our evolution and during the change we did on the interface we have with animals from natural predation to production and globalization. So with different interfaces, wildlife, companion, livestock, common sense, at every step, we have been contaminated by animals' pathogens. So, finally, we can explain the epidemic emergence by multiple mechanisms: direct contamination or transmission by vectors from animal reservoir, with the importance of anthropogenic factors such as demography, agriculture, animal husbandry, industrialization, globalization. And the process is in two steps: the specie jump and the human-to-human transmission, which is two different steps. And as we said, it is a result of two interrelated factors combined. The first one is the population growth, and the second one is the transformation of the environment. And with these two factors, the first one being demographic changes during the prehistoric times, going from the small groups during the Paleolithic time, hunters, gatherers, with a population size of dozens, to the farming societies with a population size of hundreds. And this phenomenon emerged at the turning of the Holocene, about 10,000 years BP. And the population size increased a lot, because we can say that, for instance, about 7,000 years ago, there are examples of Neolithic proto-cities peopled by a huge number of people, inhabitants, up to 30,000 people, which is the size of medium-sized modern French towns. So this was the ideal condition for the development of epidemics, with this population density, the promiscuity, the poor hygiene, the close contact with animals. And another key is how we can track these past pandemics. It can be done by using an integrative approach, such as the combination of different sources, old bones with paleopathology, old books with historical methods, and old molecules with paleomicrobiology. And paleomicrobiology is an emerging field which is interested in the reconstruction of the epidemiology of past epidemics by using ancient biological material for characterizing the ancient pathogens with molecular biology. So it can detect and know with the progress of molecular biology, it can be possible to do paleogenomics. It can detect the virulence and transmission of ancient pathogens, their origin and geographical spread, as well as their genetic diversity and their evolution, which is a big progress and very interesting issue. So to illustrate that, I will take two examples. The first one is the plague. Sorry. And it was the beginning of paleomicrobiology due to the excavation, archaeological excavation of plague mass grave in Marseille in 1994, the mass grave dating from the 1722. And molecular analyses were planned at the moment of the excavation. And we did, in collaboration with a microbiologist. It was the first use of dental pulp in paleomicrobiology and the first identification of Yersinia pestis in archaeological material. And now it has been possible with the progress of paleogenomics to specify the age of this specimen for Yersinia pestis, which would date from 5,000 years BP, as well as the age of the emergence, which would date from 7,000 years BP. And ancient strains of this Yersinia pestis have been identified in Western Eurasia during the Bronze Age, between 5,000 and 3,000 years BP. But these prehistoric strains of Yersinia pestis do not have the mode of transmission nor the virulence of the strain of the historical bacillus. The prehistoric bacillus was not transmitted by the flea, and it was not so virulent. But commensal rodents were already the probable reservoir. So the acquisition of flea transmission and virulence mutation occurred around 30,000 years BP to lead to historical epidemics, the first being the Justinian plague of the 6th century AD. Second example is smallpox, which has been the subject of 3 paleomicrobiological studies. And these works has allowed us to propose a current synthesis of the evolution of this virus. The emergence of the human strain dates back to 4,000 years BC, which would have divided around 1,700 years BC into 2 strains, an ancient one prevailing in Europe until the end of the Viking period, and the ancestor of the modern strains. It is currently difficult to say whether is the ancient strain or the ancestor of the modern strain that reached Pharaoh Ramses V, or that was described by the Persian physician Rhazes in the 10th century AD. The emergence of the modern strain in Europe is late, around the 16th century, and the emergence between the 2 clades of major and minor smallpox occurred after the introduction of vaccination by Jenner. So, sorry. It is thus possible from these 2 examples to date the interval between the supposed date of the specigens and the first pandemic phenomena. Thus, it takes about 5,000 years for the plague and 2,000 years for smallpox. If we consider the time interval for AIDS, it is less than a century, and for COVID, it is very surprising that its interval is even shorter between the assumed date of specigen in 2019 and the pandemic spread. This is abnormal situation, and this adaptation period is too short. So the general lesson for the present is that due to human activities and the population explosion, the natural history of pandemics is speeding up. And one of the disturbing problems is that scientists can still accelerate this process by trying to resurrect all pandemics, as it was done for the Spanish flu. This considerably modified the natural history of pandemics by reintroducing sometimes very virulent strains that have disappeared, whereas the current strain have gradually adapted to a lesser virulence. In addition, there are real risks of using pandemic strains, ancient or modern, as biological weapons. And as a matter of temporary conclusion, it took time in the past between specigens and the first human pandemic of this pathogen. Human activities are the only responsible for the speeding up of pandemics nowadays, with the population growth and global changes. And we can increase this phenomenon by direct human intervention, such as resurrection of extinct strains, or for bioterrorism purposes. So we do hope it won't be the case. And thank you very much for your attention. And in case of any question, you can email me. Thank you very much.
Extremely interesting, and I was excited. Dear colleagues, now it is the end of today's sessions. We are going to be tomorrow together again at 10 o'clock. Please remember this. It's not 9:30, but it is 10 o'clock. We're starting right away to the regular presentations. Now, at the end of this session, I will invite you all to participate and take a look at an art exhibition that we have outside. This art exhibition has been specially brought here for this specific event. It is our exhibition, therefore, and it is prepared by a few, or let's say some, female artists that have prepared all these paintings, and they brought them together for this specific conference. So have your coffee, take a look at the exhibition, and then please wait for a small welcome reception that we will have just outside of the museum entrance. It was a pleasure being with you, and it will be a pleasure to be tomorrow with you again for the rest of the conference. Thank you all again.